Hello, one more time. Welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. My name is Jed, and we are in the Symposium today. We're starting a new dialogue. At the time of the recording, we're in chapter 5 of the Philosophical Midwifery book. I hope you are reading along with that as well. Only because this game that we're in, the human game, the movement, the evolutionary movement from belief to understanding, as we are discovering by our reading, through our own understanding, that we are in an evolutionary process to move from a way of making sense of ourselves and the world through belief, one way of making sense of things, to a more evolved form of making sense of ourselves and the world, understanding. Specifically, dianoia. A different kind of understanding than what we're used to in our culture, because dianoia can be applied to reality itself. Pure being, not the physical world in becoming, but being. That's the object of dianoia. Meaning, it's a spiritual yoga or a spiritual process, because it's through applying our understanding to being that we prepare ourselves for insight into a direct experience of being itself. And that is exactly one of the whole point of the Symposium. Because one of the aspects of pure being is, well, it's beauty itself. It's the most beautiful thing possible. So you could say the Symposium is the use of dianoia as a spiritual yoga applied to the eidos or aspect of being beauty, or you could say it's the game of Philodianoia applied to the object of being, making use of our soul's desire for that, or love, our desire for beauty. Now the Symposium, one more time, is a my OBS crashed, so I'm doing this intro again. The Symposium means drinking party. So the setting is the day after the equivalent of their Oscars back in ancient Greek time, about 300 BC odd. They had the big award ceremony for the best comedic and tragic playwrights. So they got all their awards and they got wasted that evening. So this is the following day where they all seem a bit hungover, really hungover, but they decide to go for it one more time and have another big party, the Symposium. And so you can see around me, early morning getting set up for for the party that's about to happen. And I'm on the big screen. That's me. So, drinking party is the Symposium. Now, as part of their drinking party, as their tradition, you'd all drink from the same bowl. So there are some cultures that drink this way currently. This is how a lot of different cultures party. They have somebody who is what the British would call mother, or the designated drink person who gets to decide how much alcohol is going, or how much of the drink is not only alcohol, goes into the bowl and passes it around. The cups have a round bottom, so you can't sit it down. You can't just I'm sure there's a word for this, where you like passing the joint around and somebody just holds on to it, something like that. Bogart, I'm not sure what it is. But anyway, you can't do that because you can't put the drink down to gossip or do something else, because it's round at the bottom. So you have to hand it back, and then they fill it up again and hand it to the next person to make sure that everybody gets equally wasted, or to make sure they don't get too wasted. Now, their drinks weren't just alcohol, it was mixed with psychedelics. So if people were getting too rowdy, they would say, oh, it needs more flour to make people more contemplative and more higher thinking. Because as we all know, alcohol makes you stupid, makes you devolves the parts of the higher parts of your brain and can turn people into morons. However, alcohol can reduce inhibitions. That more highly evolved part of our brain is what focuses on really subtle social cues and can loosen you up a little bit. So it's a balancing act, you could say, between flour and alcohol. Is there too much flour and everyone's too introspective or withdrawing or something like that? Or is it too much alcohol and everyone's too rowdy and stupid and moronic? Can you balance them together? That was the role of the person carrying around the cup. And I'm sure there's a name for that. I don't know what it is. But that's the symposium. That's what's happening. Okay, and they all meet up and somebody suggests a fun activity. Let's talk about the nature of beauty or love. Why? Well, these are the greatest playwrights. These are the people who everybody else comes to in that culture to learn about reality, to learn about the gods. This was their cultural spirituality, or you might say religion. You would go to these plays and you would hear the stories about how Zeus interacts with Achilles and the heroes and the gods and how they interact with each other, with themselves and with mankind. And you would talk about it. You'd talk about it for the next few months or the next month until you see the next one. And so these are the people who are educating the culture. And one of the most important things, one of the things that human beings are most interested in is beauty. And equally so, one of the most motivating forces within the human soul is love. And these people consider themselves experts, and society considers them experts enough to give them all of the awards, give them the Oscars for that year. So somebody suggests, well, let's talk about it. And by the way, Socrates shows up. He didn't show up last night when they were all getting loaded, but he showed up today. And that's one of our puzzles. Why is it that Socrates is able to show up in places like this without an invitation? Or without being a playwright himself? Now, as we go through this, we're also learning how to read in a new way. So we're not adding things that aren't there or leaving things out. So we're not doing interpretation, but we're also looking for as many puzzles as we can as we go. And everything that we've been learning about the logos and the dialectic informs how we can read in that way where we look for puzzles. For instance, one of the things we've been learning about the logos is structural similarity or analogy. In other words, there's an unfolding of the logos from self into being or reality, into our physical world, and through all of the different things that we can learn about in our physical world. All of the intelligible or understandable systems within our world, all of the things you can learn about that have terms that you can order hierarchically, like geometry and music and mathematics, all of these things follow the same structure, allowing us to learn through analogy. In other words, you can use what you can grasp, what you are aware of, and wonder about how do those relationships stay the same but apply to different terms on a higher order or in a different order. Like, can you use your understanding of the dialectic to uncover some insight into geometry or into music, going sideways. Or what we're interested in most of all, going up. How can we gain an understanding or insight into higher levels of reality that we haven't yet seen using analogy? So this is how we can discover questions. For instance, that question that we just asked, how come Socrates was there? He wasn't a playwright. That's a question we can ask. Within the story itself, there's a puzzle. We can carry that puzzle with us as we read. That does something to us. We're not passively reading. We're not reading this because we're going to get a degree or something. We're doing this because it is a text that reflects the Logos itself. It's a text that reflects the understandability and the knowability of reality. It's a text that if we try and match it, we ourselves move from our opinions and our stupid opinions from everyday shapes and colors to understanding. We're evolving our own cognition, our own capacity to think. Because the Logos is the unfolding intelligible structure of reality, but it's also the path we walk back. It's the unfolding and the return, allowing us to learn, allowing us to grow. So as we do our best to match the Logos in our reading, in our wondering, we are climbing that path. We are walking that path, the hero's journey, back to the source of all intelligibility, being, and the source of that, you, the self, the real self. Self unfolding through the Logos to itself, the nature of itself. That's what we're here for. We can only do it through time. It's what makes us better. What allows us to participate in intelligence itself, makes us smarter, makes us better people. If this is what benefits, then we can be kind and good, just. And it also is an education and training that can prepare us for where we go beyond this lifetime. Because, as we're saying, Logos applies to being. So rationally speaking, if there's anything we had to do here on this planet, considering we all know we're not here forever, it would be a kind of learning and nurturing of our own selves that we can use to benefit ourselves in our journey beyond this lifetime as well. So, with all that in mind, we see different levels of meaning. There is a meaning in our own learning to read. First of all, there's a meaning in just having fun, being able to follow the story, having fun with the puzzles within the narrative. Why is Socrates there? What's he going to do? What's going to happen at the party? Is Socrates going to get drunk? What's Socrates like when he gets drunk? That's fun. That's the first level. Then within the story, from that you can go to, actually, hang on a second. What does it say about Socrates himself as a man? Can we learn about this character Socrates? If he's the best of human, if he, as he said in the apology, God's gift to humanity, and as he says in the Phaedo, I've completed my work here. I've therefore going to give a synopsis of a life lived through philosophy as a way of saying this is the meaning of life and this is what it means to complete your work here and escape not only the chains of your problems and suffering, but the prison of reincarnation itself. Then what does it say about that kind of a person? What is an enlightened person like at a party? Is he a fun party guest? That saying, you're fun at parties. Well, is Socrates fun at parties? And then we can go beyond that again. So we can use that one puzzle analogously to unlock another puzzle of a higher meaning. There's a fancy name for that movement upwards through analogy, anagogic movement. But what we're also doing is unlocking higher ousia, or ousia is the Greek word for the capacity of our mind to turn about and know itself. Ultimately, in the experience of pure being, mind knowing itself completely all at once as eternity. That's the spiritual experience, or one of the two spiritual experiences. There's a state beyond that, of course, the one self. But that's normally considered enlightenment, in most Eastern traditions, at least. Ousia. So we are adding that word to our language because we need a word for that, because how can we talk about it and use it if we don't have a word for it? So if ousia is the eye of the soul, the way through which we can have enlightenment or know ourselves as eternity, or know the nature of the divine, then one way of understanding what we're doing and unlocking these puzzles of a higher and higher order is climbing the ladder of ousia. You can reflect on the story. Hey, you could read it mindlessly. Like you watch a boring movie or something. Or you have a podcast on in the background while you do your laundry. But if you reflect on the story, look for the puzzles in the way that we've been talking about, you're doing what the author intended. This isn't an instruction manual. It is an instruction manual, but it's not a scientific textbook. They're not forcing facts into your brain. No. It's giving you the conditions for your own development yourself. But that means you have to match it. You have to be truth-seeking yourself. You have to want to free yourself from false beliefs. You have to want to evolve and become a better person yourself. You're going to have to want to reflect ousia for yourself and see for yourself. Which means looking for the puzzles as we've been talking about. So, what's the puzzle of the story? What does it say about Socrates the man, a higher order? What does it say about philosophers themselves? Hey, aren't we in this game? Don't we want to be evolving? Don't we want to be better people? Don't we want to reach the highest experiences? Don't we want to uncover the nature of ourselves? Don't we want to function through it? Don't we want to go to all of the greatest parties, even without an invitation? Are there great parties happening on cosmic levels or dimensions of reality? Don't we want to go to those? So we can ask a question, not just about Socrates the man, but Socrates the philosopher. Universally, what's the principle of being a philosopher itself? We can reflect on the book itself, not just the story within the book, but what is the text doing? If it's giving us puzzles, is that a higher functioning? Is that some sort of demonstration of what a philosopher does? Do we see Socrates doing a similar thing? And then even a higher level, what are we doing? When we're reflecting through different levels of analogy, self-reflecting, using our greatest understanding that we are developing ourselves, trying our best to apply the logos and dialectic. But also we can ask, well, hang on a second, we're also doing dream analysis on this channel. Can we find some similarities between this and dream analysis? We're also doing midwifery, how to use self-reflection, ousia, and the logos. Together we would say dianoia, or the dialectic, to reflect on our dreams, ourselves, for ourselves. Can we gain insights into how to do that better? Should we be looking for puzzles within our dreams? Should we be looking for analogies within our dreams? Should we be making that anagogic movement to higher levels of reflection when we reflect on our dreams? And do we benefit if we do that? Can we unlock a methodology of dream analysis for ourselves? So all of these things are ways of unlocking questions as we read. But also another method for unlocking questions is the dialectic formally. So what we've been learning about the dialectic: definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion. A way of structuring thought in a really specific way, given to Socrates by another one of his teachers, Parmenides. Can we apply that to the text? Can we look for a definition of something at the beginning of the text? Can we keep our mind open to, well, hang on, if there's a definition given, we better find a demonstration within the text so we can see it functioning. And division, we better see this demonstration divided up into a specific context relevant to the book. And then conclusion, having gone through that process, we better be able to turn back to that definition that we started with and take our conclusions from that division to better understand the original idea. How often does that happen? Every page, every paragraph, the book itself? Is Socrates himself a demonstration of the dialectic he's been defining so often for us? And what the heck does all of this have to do with our ability to love wisdom? Philos, Sophia, the love of wisdom. So, lots of questions that we carry with us in our question sack as we take the quest. Because to have a question is to be on a quest. Turn up my... So let's take that quest and jump into the text. And level up. Okay, here we are. I have my coffee. Let's start our journey. Hooray. Date of the conversation. 400 BC, 1 year before the death of Socrates. Now that's interesting. We've had a read through the Phaedo, his last day. Here he is a year before his death. So that's interesting. So he's already lived a life of philosophy. Apollodorus. I believe that I am not unpracticed concerning that which you inquire. And since recently I happened to be going up to the city from my home down Phaleron way, when one of my acquaintances caught sight of me from far away and called to me from behind in a playful way. And at the same time that he closed the gap, he shouted. Glaucon shouted to Apollodorus, "O Phalerian, you, Apollodorus, will you not wait?" So I stopped and waited, to which he responded. Now already we have a bunch of puzzles that we can wonder about as we continue to read through the book. This seems to be a review of something that happened. It's not happening at this moment. It's somebody, Apollodorus, recounting something that happened to him. That's interesting. What's the significance of this being a recount? And so we can carry that puzzle with us in terms of the text, but then we can unlock through the use of analogy and anagogic movement higher questions. What's the significance of reviewing something after the fact in philosophy, in midwifery, in dream analysis, in mythology? So those are the 4 aspects of philodianoia. I'll write them on the board because this is the start of a new series. So as we've been going through on this channel, we have been reading these texts and we've been coming to conclusions together with the community and building a picture of what it is we're here to do as human beings. And we have summarized that. Oh no, it's doing the thing. All right. So we have discovered that what we are doing here in learning how to read and learning how to think and learning how to understand and making that journey from we had a look at the divided line recently where Socrates says, hey, get a line, divide it in a certain proportion, and then again in that proportion, giving you A, B, C, and D. Image thinking, belief, and here is a divide. Then you have understanding and knowing, or dianoia and nous. And he said, hey, by the way, as you move towards this end, you have more clarity, you have more truth, and if you go backwards, more obscurity and ignorance. But this line is the divide because understanding and nous is of the intelligible realm of being, whereas on the other side it's the world of opinions from the world of becoming, a physical world. So notice these are bigger. But what's interesting is dianoia, or understanding, is a shadow of the intelligibility of being, the knowability of reality, the understanding itself, the rationality of our existence, and the way of rationally comprehending reality is itself a shadow of the rationality of reality itself, or the self logos. It's our way to have this experience. It's our way to make sense of it once we've had it, so we can make sense of it, maybe go into it in greater depth, figure out that there are eidos. Now, this was the word that has been mistranslated in our culture as forms. The aspects of nous are not forms. That's a mistranslation from a guy named Benjamin Jowett. No, the Greek word is eidos, which means to behold. Aspects that you can recognize when you behold this experience. Beauty itself, justice itself, goodness, wholeness, part. All of the self-logos terms, or the selfers. That's the eidos. Eidos. The selfers. So, understanding is our method of reaching it. It's a way of making sense of it while we're there. Also going beyond it, because the divided line is not complete. That's one of the puzzles given to us at the end of Book 6 of the Republic. And of course, we can turn back and help others in philosophical midwifery. Help others traverse this gap. That's philosophical midwifery. Because this gap, people who have not examined their fundamental beliefs, Their way of thinking is just a shadow of belief. In the same way, understanding is a shadow of nous, so too, image thinking is a shadow of belief and serves only to justify the dumb beliefs you got from childhood. Which is why, if you've ever seen a debate, no one's changing their mind. You have some fascist come in with some fascist beliefs, and his whole debate or way of thinking is just to justify the beliefs he already carries. And he walks out of the debate more smug with his stupid beliefs. So debate is this. This is debate. Debate. Using your image thinking, which is itself a shadow of the beliefs that you carry, that you don't know you carry, you just think it's real. All of these you think is real when you're in them. Whereas each of these uses of understanding, to reach nous, to make sense of nous, to go beyond nous, to go beyond being, and to help people to traverse this, that's dialectic. So you can say debate is a distorted shadow of true use of language and human interaction, dialectic. And dialectic is also how to think. It's the structure of the self-logos. So when we said, let's look for times when an idea is being defined, the subject defined in relation to itself. We can also say, hey, if this is what's being defined, can we look for a demonstration? How does that thing you've just defined roll over and function? See, it flows. Function to others, self to others. As a result of that functioning, how do we divide it? How do we use it in more contexts? And maybe even a context specific to the story we're reading? Division. So this others, that functioning, how does it function to other others? And finally, as a result of that, can we come to a conclusion? Can we, from this, synthesize synthesize a theme, an idea that makes sense of this whole thing, a conclusion, and take that idea that we've come to, that conclusion, back to the first definition to better understand it. So we've leveled up. Having gone through this unfolding of the logos, we're returning via the logos to where we started, which might reflect reality itself. So that's analysis. Synthesis and analysis, the two parts of conclusion. Now, this is what we're using when we're as a tool for unpacking mysteries in the text. Is there an idea that someone defines? Did they then give a demonstration of it? If they don't, why not? Is it because we are being asked to fill in the next step? Is it because they failed? Is it because they're ignorant? Is it because they haven't learned dianoia, understanding themselves? Or is it because the definition was sufficient and you don't have to go beyond? Everybody's, we're all familiar with this definition. So, hey, you know what a cat is? Yeah, I know what a cat is. Okay, well, this is how you feed a cat. Or this is how many cats I have. If people are happy with the definition, you don't have to outline it any further. So if there are certain definitions given in this party that tell us about the culture back then, some things that they just take for granted, they don't have to go through this. When do they break it down to divisions, into arguments? Do they argument for what if it does and what if it doesn't? Or pick one, showing the absurdities if it doesn't follow, or what has to necessarily follow to prove? Is this what proof means? Showing the absurdities or the contradictions or hypocrisy that follows if it's not the case, we would synthesize that the positive must be true. This is the significance of hypocrisy and contradiction. Ever notice that politicians are quite happy to contradict themselves? Hey, you're saying that everyone should follow the law, but the billionaires don't follow the law. Hey, you should say that everybody should have freedom, but the fact that money is relative, meaning if we have rich people, that means there has to be poor people who don't have freedom, who are suffering and starving. How can you say you care about everyone if you think that billionaires and millionaires should exist? That's hypocrisy or a contradiction. And a politician or a clergyman will say, we don't care. Who cares if we contradict ourselves? This is why it matters. The dialectic. The method of becoming good people, of thinking, of being rational, of helping people. Thought itself. Why? Because hypocrisy and contradiction is one of the possibilities within division. If we're saying, hey, beauty exists eternally as an aspect of being, you can say, what? Give a demonstration of that. But I still don't follow. Break it down so I can show how it's necessarily the case. Or take the opposite. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Beauty isn't real. It's just a fantasy. Or a evolutionary squirting of chemicals. Then show the argumentation of that to show that it's wrong. A hypocrisy, a contradiction follows, an absurdity follows, to show that it must be the case that beauty does exist. As an example. So we all need to learn this, not only for our own development, but for the well-being and harmony of our society and our species. Otherwise, some leader can just say, hey, I think that people should be free, but I also think that wealth inequality or rich people should exist. And we'll say, okay, I guess that's just your opinion and there's no truth. Everything is a matter of opinion. Then who cares? Let my children starve. Let my friends be homeless. Because, hey, if you're a billionaire, you're going to have to spend the money on something. Houses are a good investment. So let's have nowhere to live. And then all of the suffering and physical and psychological damage that comes from not having a place to live. Yeah. Who gives a fuck? Says human beings who haven't learnt how to think through the dialectic. Haven't recognized that it's significant always when a hypocrisy, contradiction, or absurdity follows in an argument because it shows the argument is wrong. So, not only for our society, for our soul and the way we treat ourselves. But the text itself, can we apply the dialectic structure? Hey, is the opening sentence, is there a definition? The opening paragraph, the opening page, take all three. Is a definition. And then looking for the demonstration and the division and the conclusion. Is there a promise here that needs to be fulfilled in the text? Otherwise, it's not a great text. So all of these are the questions that we wonder about as we read. With that in mind, I believed I am not unpracticed concerning that which you inquire. How many puzzles can we unlock in that first sentence? Practice. Are we practicing ourselves in our reading? Is this mastery of the dialectic, the love of understanding that we're here to do as human beings, the quest we're on?
Have you read Brand at all?
Oops.
Have you read...
Is that a practice? Is that why I try and stream every day if I can? Is there a significance in the fact that he says not unpracticed? Meaning, is there a puzzle? He's giving you a double negative, meaning you have to flip it. If you're not unpracticed, what does that mean that you are? And if he's phrasing it in that way, is there a significance in giving people puzzles to solve rather than just telling you what you believe already? Well, here are my dumb opinions. What's going to happen if someone just spouts their own dumb opinion? Someone knocks on your door. Some 17-year-old in a suit. Can I tell you about Jesus, the Lord of Jesus, and this gospel of the Mormon gospel? Two things can happen. You either already agree and you'll pat them on the head and say, oh, yeah, no, I already believe. Good job. Go to the next house. Or you don't agree and you say, well, I disagree with your beliefs. Go away. You either already believe it or you don't, in which case you dismiss it. Does understanding work that way? Solving puzzles? Playing a video game yourself? Not unpracticed, meaning I'm giving you something to do. What's he giving us something to do? Look for puzzles, look for these contradictions or double negatives and flip them, meaning practice. Is that a demonstration of that? Is looking for that puzzles the very practice that he is giving you a demonstration of? The practice is looking for puzzles? What's the significance of him starting off with belief? What's the significance of this being a review? Inquire. Why does somebody else have to have the inquiry? Why do you have to have the puzzle? Hey, it's all well and good to say there's a meaning of life, and it's the movement from belief to understanding, which can be applied to self and reality, to reach your highest expression of self, enlightenment experiences and beyond, to know the ultimate destiny, not just of you, of every sentient being. Oh, and by the way, it's super important to be practicing this dianoia because and dialectic, because it's the thing that solves human problems. And the fact that we still have fascism and war and starvation and wealth inequality and capitalism and genocide is simply a testament to the fact that we haven't fucking learned how to solve human problems. And the way we solve human problems is this. Problems themselves are solved by moving from belief-based thinking to understanding. And that only happens through the love of dianoia, the love of philosophical midwifery, dream analysis, and philosophy, or mythology, sharing it. It's all well and good to say that. Is it going to stick if it's just expressed as an opinion or a belief? Or does somebody have to have an inquiry? Do you have to already be meeting a soul who wants to solve problems, who wants to make the world a better place, who wants to solve their own problems, who wants to know the nature of themselves, who wants to answer, why are we here? And isn't taking the idea, no one knows the meaning of life, bullshit. I'm not happy with that crap. That's just your stupid belief. And I know you're stupid because I've talked to you. I'm not accepting you can't know. That's stupid. That implies you know the meaning of life and you know it's unknowable. But that's a contradiction. And I know from the dialectic that if it's a contradiction, it can't be right. To say I know what the meaning of life is and I know that it's unknowable, that doesn't make sense. So I want to know the meaning of life. I want to know why we're here. I want to know how to be the best sort of person I can be. You have to have the inquiry. So anything I have been saying today, take it as a puzzle. Carry it as a puzzle. It's not an opinion. So carry this dialectic structure as a puzzle. It's a right opinion because it's what we've been working on by practicing this together in the channel for the last year and a half or so. I've been in the game for much longer. This divided line with, let's put A, B, C, and D. We did review it in, I think, Philosophical Midwifery episode 90-ish. You can find it on YouTube if you're interested. A, B, C, D. Again, carry it as an opinion until it pans out as a hypothesis. It either pans out or it doesn't. And let it go if it doesn't. And equally so, the summary of what we are doing, what we have discovered is this meaning of life, is what we're here to do. The mastery of the art of mastery. How do we gain mastery of it or excellence of it? It's an art because it's universal and it benefits as a principle of dun dun dun. Oh. Phila, the love of dianoia, the love of that understanding that we outlined in part and C of the divided line. What the best use of Usia we can do through time as our spiritual yoga to reach being itself, the intelligible, to make sense of it, recognize that it has parts, recognize that reality is understandable, wonder about it to go beyond, but also to do dream analysis and midwifery to help ourselves and our friends and our loved ones themselves move from the bad side of the divided line to the good one. Or evolve from barbarians and zombies and NPCs to real human beings. People who are in the human race. Homo sapiens, man the thinker, this is thinking. Or rather, Homo ludens, man the player. This process here, understanding, that's the game, the noblest game. So, wait, move sideways. So what is involved in the mastery of the art of philodianoia that we have been putting together ourselves? So we're in an interesting position. I want to start afresh in a new text, but I also don't want to dismiss all the work we've been doing on the community the last year and a half. So, I'm going to give an outline of it that you can carry as an opinion. You can go back into the videos. You can find a link to the YouTube channel and go through them at your own pace. You can read the text yourself. Usually I post a link to the text below. There's also a link to donate to the channel if you think it's worth supporting the channel. To go through the process of puzzle solving with us yourself. But I also don't want to dismiss the great work we've done because, as we saw in the dialectic, definition self to self, your work carries over and then carries over and then carries over and then carries over. So interestingly, there are 4 aspects of the dialectic, but there are 4 aspects too of the use of understanding to find what's true. What we're doing today by reading. That's why you have to have a nose in the Platonic text. They say, hey, if you're in the game, you have to be doing these 4 things, including having, number 1, a nose in a Platonic dialogue. We've started another dialogue, Socrates and Jesus, a dialogue in heaven. But I'm also opening up the symposium as well. A lot of reasons, but one of them being it's good to always have your nose in a Platonic dialogue, in a Balboa translation. As we saw, we talked about Benjamin Jowett giving us the word forms. It's not forms. The word is eidos. Hey, also didn't translate the self. Notice the whole divided line is about the self. The self logos. The selfers. The ultimate goal is to know the self. So if you don't have these translations, you're not actually doing philosophy. You're doing what Socrates called in the Phaedo love of opinions. Debate bro stuff. See? Notice how every philosophy thing on YouTube or on wherever else you find them at university, they're all doing debates, meaning they're in the realm of opinion. Socrates calls it philodoxia, the love of opinions. That's why problems aren't solving. That's why we still have Nazis, and we still have fascism, and we still have homelessness, and we still have all these very, very easily solved problems that can be easily solved. A 4-year-old can say, well, why doesn't everyone get a house? Oh no, billionaires must have all the houses because trickle-down economics. And why are we so immature and irrational when it comes to how we treat ourselves and our fellow man? Because we are stuck on this side of the divided line. We have not evolved through the love of dianoia. So we don't have dialectics, we have debates. We don't reach insight into understanding and nous, dianoia and nous. We just confirm the opinions we have. A fascist will walk out of a debate even more fascist. And if you've been on YouTube recently, you will recognize that yourself. Even if it's not right-wing propaganda. By the way, right-wing is just another name for the pathologos. People who take the pathologos and make it a political party. That's it. There is no real right-wing. Just the pathologos. Equally so, if there was to be a true left-wing, or let's get rid of right and left and say progressive, it would be this. The Logos Party. The love of dianoia, the philodianoia party. Because this is literally progression. In all 4 areas that we've gone through today. So, to find the truth, we have a nose in a Balboa, free, by the way, and the Greeks underneath it. So you can use the internet to look up the lexicon on Perseus' website. If you're ever confused about the definition, we do that here. Philosophy. Applying understanding the dialectic to what's true is philosophy, which is the Balboa translation free of Plato or Socrates. It's Socrates' conversations that Plato was transcribing. Not all of them. He left out the midwifery and dream analysis ones, and we talk about that later and before. Socrates. So you can apply understanding to understand and remove what's false. That's philosophical midwifery. You get a guidance in both from your dream analysis. How do you get the meanings from your dreams? You got to remember them and record them, of course, but then you have to apply the dialectic to them. Dream analysis. And by the way, it's not a solo quest because
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
I'm looking for someone to share an adventure, says Gandalf to the hobbits. He says,
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure,
says Darth Vader. We share it. That's mythology. Why? Because you create myths or stories in your creations, in your poetry, or whatever it is that you like to create. Mythology. Take all of this, all you've learned about this, all you've learned about the dialectic, and give them characters. Make one Spider-Man, make one the Fantastic Four baby, make one Superman, and mythology is that. Create your own puzzles for people. But also it's a mnemonic device. Helps you remember stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4. Reflecting the structure of understanding itself, the dialogue. That's what we have been discovering together on the channel. And again, take it as an opinion, as a belief, a right opinion, of course, not the other sorts of opinions. Now notice, we are distinguishing right opinions, which are things, if you are down here, if you are still in the realm of beliefs and image thinking, in order to help learn about what's beyond, you take somebody who's gone through that process, like Socrates, like Pierre Grimes, and they have understanding, they have nous, and they likely have phronesis or self or good self or whatever it is that's beyond that. That's one of our questions. They have that. They've gone through the process. So when they share their thoughts, for us, it's right opinion. That's why we have to have a nose in a Platonic text, why we have to be reading the midwifery book, why we have to be doing dream analysis every morning over coffee. Cheers. And doing our best to share it with people who are inquiring, like the first sentence of the book we're reading. The right opinion. Interesting? I believe I'm not unpracticed concerning that which you inquire. And since I recently, when do you do dream analysis? On the most recent dream? Why is that significant? I happen to be going up to the city. Mythology, right? Anagogic movement expressed in mythology, that fourth thing. Down. Up and down, what role do those play? Don't know yet, but it's significant. So the town of Valeron plays a significance. That's down. The city is up. What does that mean? His friends caught sight of him. Philos, in terms of love, can also be described as friendship, true friendship. So philodianoia is our model for love in loving relationships. Love built on a sharing of understanding, a love of understanding, but also friendship. Are you being a good friend if you dump your opinions on people? Or are you being a good friend if you share your dialectic with them? Your art with them? Caught sight from far away. What's the significance of seeing? If this is about love, do you first have to catch sight of your beloved from far away before you can close the gap and reach your object of beauty that you are in love with? He called out to me. What's the significance of putting words? You have to communicate with your beloved? You have to reach out to them? Now remember, analogy, take whatever experience you have of love and beauty and wanting something beautiful that you are familiar with, but also give birth to questions. How does it relate to our love of understanding? How does it relate to our love of beauty itself? Apply to all of them. What's the significance of it being...
The problem is that...
What?
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder, dude?
Of it being in a playful way. We call this the noblest game, don't we? We have fun, don't we? We have fun here, don't we? Yay. We have fun here. Oh, Valerian. What's the significance of it being addressed by his city first? Apollodorus, will you not wait? What's the significance of Glaucon, who lacks whatever it is he is wondering about, calling out for somebody beyond him to wait for him? So I stopped and waited, to which he responded, Glaucon. And I have certainly just now been looking for you, Apollodorus, since I also want to find out about the Symposium, the banquet that brought together Agathon and Socrates and Alcibiades. So we've got 1, 2, 3 peeps, 3 bods happening. What's the significance of 3? By the way, another way of getting puzzles is when the author gives you a list of terms. Because your job is to collect those terms, number 1, and order them. Using as best you can your understanding of the dialectic and logos to order them. And in doing so, you're ordering your own thinking, harmonizing your own psyche, which might be... Anyway, we'll leave that open. 3 terminology, does that play a role? And the rest of the party at that time. So I wanted to, hey, I've been looking for you, Apollodorus, says Glaucon, since I also want to find out about the banquet that brought together Agathon and Socrates and Alcibiades and the rest of the party at that time. And what were their speeches about the matters of love?
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
Speeches about love. Now, here is one of the other significances about reading the Balboa. When you have come across something like this, speeches about love, that sounds significant. But where's the puzzle? We need a puzzle to have a question. We need a question to be on a quest.
Have you read Brand?
But accept the quest. Now, this is the significance of one of the significance about the Balboa translation. Look. In that section, he also gives us the Greek. He helps us by highlighting and giving a capital letter to certain keywords that he knows are keywords from his understanding of the ancient Greek and philosophy and midwifery. But he also gives us the Greek so we can look for puzzles there as well. What do we see? That might be a keyword. Here, look at this. This L-shaped thing, which has a support leg, that's L in Greek. That O is O in English. That Y-looking thing is actually a G. That W is another version of O. They've got a couple of O's. And this V-looking thing, actually it's an N upside down. L-O-G-O-N. What's that spell? Logon or logos. The N just changes the use in the sentence. But logos, that's the logos. He wants to know the logos of love. What's the significance of logos? That's the unfolding of reality and our return. That's what the dialectic makes use of. The dialectic is the use and power of the logos. The love of understanding is both the dialectic and the logos together. The self-ers, the self-logos terms are the terms we look for in the text. Agathon, so Socrates, Alcibiades. That's what we arrange with the dialectic, the logos. See how important it is to read the Balboa translation, and why we say if you're not in the Balboa translation, you're not really doing philosophy. Logos about love. Says Glaucon to Apollodorus. For, says Glaucon, some other persons related to me what they have heard from Phoenix.
Look, it's you. It's you, Phoenix, baby stuffy. It's you, Phoenix.
Phoenix, son of Philip. Who is Philip? Your dad. Is that Philip over there? Dinosaur that looks after my guitar over there? And Pikachu and Bulbasaur look after him? Who's Philip? So some other person related to Glaucon, what they had heard from Philip, Phoenix, son of Philip. And so he said that you also knew it. Okay, so Glaucon is getting secondhand information from Phoenix, who is able to judge the knowledge of Apollodorus. But since he had nothing to say that was clear, in that case, it's up to you to unfold it to me. For you are the most just messenger to report the logos of your constant companion Socrates. So, Phoenix. No. Glaucon heard from some other jabroni, something that this jabroni heard from Phoenix. But this jabroni probably hasn't been following this channel, hasn't been subscribed to my channel, and hasn't been learning the dialectic, so they can't express their logos in a way that's clear. What's the significance of clarity in the game that we're in? Another puzzle. Do we want to see clearly? Are we learning to read clearly without interpretations? What's the word for justice? Dikaios. Dikaioi. The most just messenger. We can have a question. How would justice relate to the logos of love? Because it is you have to have justice to be a good messenger. To report the logos of our companion, friend, Socrates. So what's the text that talks about justice? The Republic. Is he tying the Republic together with the Symposium here? In the Republic, is that where we learnt that the dialectic is how the philosopher king relates most justly, makes use of the Logos to facilitate the experience of being necessary for justice. Now, I'm saying a bunch of words. I'm saying a bunch of words that might not make sense if you haven't gone through the Republic or you're new to the Symposium. But once again, if they stick into your mind as a puzzle, carry them as a puzzle, as a question. You don't have to, thumbs up, you don't have to agree with what I'm saying. You're not supposed to agree with what I'm saying. But I'm doing my best to share what I am seeing because I want to have fun too. But carry them as hypotheses if they stick, if they are your inquiries. That's what you're curious about. Only so that you can see how it has to be true for yourself. Not for yourself, but true yourself. See that for yourself that it's true. Okay? You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. You probably won't agree with most of what I'm saying. That's okay. Carry it as a puzzle anyway. And at the end of it, if it doesn't pan out, you can send me a message on Discord or in the chat and say, I don't think that the Republic was actually about justice. I don't think that to be a just communicator of the Logos, you need to master the dialect. And I don't think that was in Book 7 of the Republic. Whatever. And hopefully, if you see something that I've missed, then I will learn as well, and we will all benefit. It will be a...
It's a win-win.
It's a...
There's only two options at the end of an argument.
Oops.
One. It's a win-win. It's a win. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win. Oh, because... Do the other one.
There's only two options at the end of an argument. One, you're wrong, but now you always get to be right about that topic going forward, so you get to learn something, which is always a plus. Or two, you're right and you get to revel in being right.
See? I will either revel in being... I don't know what reveling I can do. Get a pat on the head from my stuffy. Good job about understanding the dialectic in Book 7. And how it's justice, but also necessary to be a just communicator about what Socrates is doing. Okay, thank you, Stuffy. Or, even better, I'm wrong and a helpful fellow adventurer.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Has taught me something or pointed to something that I can learn. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Hmm. All right. So you, Apollodorus, is the most just messenger because that guy who heard from that other guy was the Greek word is a jabroni. I'm not sure if that's Greek. Because, yeah, he couldn't communicate the Logos. So what's the significance of somebody living their life as a constant companion to Socrates? Are we being a constant companion to Socrates? In being in the Philodianoia game? Do you want to be a constant companion to your beloved? Apollodorus said that he continued. Glaucon continues. But first tell me this. Were you yourself present at this party? We have been talking so much on this channel about this puzzle. What's the difference between this philosophy and what they teach you at school, or what my auntie thinks is her philosophy, or my racist uncle's philosophy on eugenics what's this? Why is this? Why are you calling this the philosophy? Not a philosophy? Like this?
Have you read Brand at all? Have you read Nagel? What about Scanlon? Have you read Scanlon or Scruton or Edmund Burke? Have you read C.S. Lewis? Have you read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Have you read Immanuel Kant? So you know Flicht.
What is this?
That kind of way of talking. Doesn't everyone have their own personal philosophy? And isn't the study of philosophy the study of how to collect Immanuel Kant and Flicht and all those other people's opinions? And you can't actually know what's true. That's the divided line. That statement makes sense for someone on this side. This side of the divided line. Because those are all opinions. What we're saying is dianoia allows you to not just understand, not opinions, not Kant's opinions or Hegel's opinions or the king's opinions or the church's opinions or the pope's opinions or your imam's opinions or your rabbi's opinions. Fuck opinions. Get rid of them. Who gives a shit what other people think? That's their problem. That's their level of development. That's their level of pathologos and ignorance. No one who cares about you is going to say, just believe me, bro. That's mean and stupid and keeps you a slave. If you want to become a mechanic and you say, why does the gasket go in the carburetor? Or just believe me, bro. No, then I'm always going to be a slave to you whenever I want to fix someone else's car. I can't master the art for myself. I want to understand for myself. Now, the thing about understanding or dianoia is you get to go to the party yourself. You're not understanding opinions, you're understanding, you can understand the nature of beliefs in midwifery to help people remove them, but dianoia is about nous, or knowledge. That's what the dialectic is to be applied to. That's what Parmenides said to Socrates in the introduction to the Parmenides that we read on the channel. If you don't learn the dialectic that my student Zeno has been learning, you won't reach truth. Truth is on this side. Ignorance is on this side. Clarity is on this side. Obscurity is on that side. This is all from the Divided Line, Book 6 of the Republic. So, yeah, you in the realm of belief, even scientific beliefs, you never know it to be true. Because you can find new evidence or come up with a better theory. Nous, or knowledge, is here. Being. So when we learn about beauty, when we learn about justice, when we learn about having the experience of ousia, the experience of bliss, we don't just believe that maybe we get it when we die if we obey the priest or whatever the fuck. No. We don't believe it from Kant. Oh, Kant can do it because he's smart, but not me. No. You're supposed to go to the party yourself. That's what real philosophy is. Philosophia, love of wisdom. If you love something, you want it. So when people say, oh, I heard from some other guy who heard from some other guy on Facebook that Socrates says he didn't know anything. Garbage. He didn't say that. That's the opening of this book. I heard from Phoenix, from some guy who heard from some other guy. But they couldn't make anything clear. Why? Well, the metaphor we've been using is you study all the eidos, beauty itself, justice itself, being itself, eternity itself, universality itself, principles themselves. Hey, that's why we say any culture who awakens a love of understanding, any culture who has an inquiry about the nature of reality and self, they will come up with the exact same set of words to describe this experience. Beauty, bliss, eternity, knowing oneself, ultimate reality, the truth of reality. So it's not just philosophy spirituality, it's just spirituality. It's the paradigm. Just like when you go to a doctor, you don't say, tell me about your medicine. No, you say, I want you to do the medicine. Tell me how you fly the plane, pilot. No. Just fly the plane properly. We learn about the party to get to the party. That's the metaphor we've been using in this channel the whole time. Which is why I say anything I say, take it as an opinion. Now there's a reason why it's an opinion, and I can give a justification for it. Hopefully clearly as I can, using the dialectic. Using the dialectic applied to the text and our conclusions from reading. Only so you can go through the art of understanding yourself. Only so as a stepping stone for you to reach the party yourself. And then come tell the rest of us how to get there and how fun it was. Inspire us too. We got 3 terms. What were the 3 that we got at the beginning? We got, he wants to learn about Agathon, Socrates, and Alcibiades. 1, 2, 3. Here's another 3. The right opinions, your own understanding, and going to the party. Hooray for the party. Again, that's a little puzzle that I saw just then from this careful reading. But don't take my puzzles. Is there a better way of understanding a 3-part process that might reflect Agathon, Socrates, and Alcibiades? You do it. Because I can tell you the right opinions about how to look for terms and organize them to get puzzles that open your mind to insight. But you have to find the terms, you have to create the analogies, you have to get the love of understanding so that you can therefore then go to the party. Yay for the party.
But this is probably the stupidest, craziest thing, and I find that very entertaining.
And RM Brown from the YouTube channel, RM Brown finds it entertaining. If he finds it entertaining, then we're in a good spot. Right, Emma?
What feminists want is two
Stop
freaks.
telling me that.
I'm too pure.
There we go. Emma's too pure. Okay. Were you present at the party yourself, Apollodorus, who was a constant companion of Socrates and seems to have justice in how he can communicate the logos and maybe make it clear? Maybe in a playful way that can close the gap between what we are inquiring about, bringing us up from wherever we are in whatever city we were born in to from down there up to the city, which we will practice every day when we read. Were you there, Apollodorus? Apollodorus responds, "It is obvious that the account here related to you was not clear." How is something obvious to us? What is needed for it to be obvious? Again, clarity repeated. Repetition. Is that important? It's not clear at all. If you think that this party, which you are asking about, happened just recently, so that I myself also happened to be there. Didn't happen recently. Interesting. Was it just recently? He says, hey, it's clear that it wasn't clear for you because it wasn't just recent. So that I was there. What does that mean? Does that mean that Apollodorus became a constant companion of Socrates after? So that, because he wasn't there then. If he wasn't there, does that make him what, right opinion or understanding or nous? If he wasn't there. To which then I said, how so, Glaucon? Do you not know that Agathon has not lived here at home for many years? And it is not even 3 years from the time which I have thus been spending with Socrates. Oh, Agathon hasn't lived at his home for many years. What's that about? And it has not even been 3 years from the time which I have been spending with Socrates. So it happened 3 years before he knew Socrates. I've been making it my daily practice. Oh, daily practice. To know everything he says or does. Before that time, I also used to run around all over the place, thinking I was lucky to do what I did. But I was more wretched than anyone, and no less than you. There's a negative there. Hey, running around all over the place, like a billionaire, right? What's the opposite? What's the opposite of doing many things in many places? And if one makes you wretched, what's the one activity and what does that make you? I was more wretched than anyone, no less than you are now, Glaucon, running around like a chicken. Thinking that you must do anything rather than do philosophy. Ooh. Running around doing anything other than a one activity called philosophy. Right, wretched like you are now thinking that you must do anything other than philosophy. Glaucon says, do not mock me, but tell me when that party itself took place. Apollodorus says, and I said, when we were yet children, the party took place during the victory celebration of the first tragedy of Agathon. So the first movie that he made, the first play. On the day after the rites of victory, so the day after the Oscars, which he and his players offered. So they were children. I guess Apollodorus and Glaucon were youngins, sweet babies. And, yeah. The Oscars, the day after. Glaucon says, so then from a very long time ago, so it appears, then who related the story to you? Or was it Socrates himself? Apollodorus said, no, by Zeus, but the very person who told Phoenix. It was a certain Aristodemus. So we now have a bit of a lineage. Aristodemus told Phoenix. Aristodemus. So was Aristodemus there? Phoenix told Jabroni. And Jabroni told Glaucon and said, that doesn't sound very clear. And then Apollodorus said, yeah, no joke, it wasn't clear because you think I was there. It happened 3 years before I started hanging out with Socrates. So 3 years before I could have been there. So Aristodemus told Phoenix, told Jabroni, told Glaucon. So there's quite a lineage. 4. Yeah, 4 people. Is that significant? Is that a list of terms? Is that enough for you to get a puzzle about and wonder about how to arrange them hierarchically? So Aristodemus of Cudathenaeum. Lovely this time of year if you're thinking about going on a trip. Think about Cudathenaeum, which has the tourist slogan, hey, if you're at Cudathenaeum, then you're going to have a good day. He was a short man who always went barefoot, okay? Aristodemus catching strays here. Poor Aristodemus. Why is he short? Why is he barefoot? Why is he talking about going around barefoot? And why did he walk around barefoot? Funny thing to do. Thus it was he who was among that party, who was among the most, another sense of the word party. We had the party of the symposium. We had the party in terms of the celebration of the tragedies. And now we have a different kind of party, a group of people who follow Socrates around. The most devoted of the lovers of Socrates at that time. I've already had the word love dropped in a couple of times. Glaucon wants to know about the logos of love. We've been talking about being a companion of Socrates to be able to convey his logos by saying, hey, these companions were lovers of Socrates. What idea of love must they have to be able to use it in that context too? So, little short barefooted Aristodemus was one of the most devoted lovers of Socrates, following him around. But I have also nevertheless indeed already questioned Socrates on the details, which I heard from Aristodemus. So, he heard it from someone first, Aristodemus, who was either there or was one of his friends at the time. But then he questioned Socrates after hearing about these opinions, these beliefs from somebody else. He followed them up. Is there a puzzle there? Is there a message there? And Socrates agreed with everything. Interesting. Just as that man had related to me. Interesting. So it sounds like this Aristodemus is what? A good follower? Has a good memory? Bad memory? Could he express things clearly? So clear that somebody who gets it from him gets the right... By the way, they're not just beliefs or opinions. If he's had them confirmed, they are... right opinions. Got some right opinions from Socrates, from Aristodemus, the short, barefooted fellow. Whereas the guy Glaucon got his opinions from... not so good. Bad, in fact. Glaucon, why? Okay, then, if you heard it from Aristodemus, and then you questioned Socrates, and he agreed with everything, and this barefooted, short Aristodemus fellow seems to be so great, then why don't you relate it to me? Since the road up to the city, here we have the repeating myth, or the repeating analogy of up to the city from the beginning. Apollodorus said, hey, I was going up to the city from down somewhere else. And Glaucon wanted to playfully communicate in a way that closed the gap. Now he's saying, Glaucon is saying, hey, I am also taking a road up to the city, and this road is well suited for hearing, for telling and hearing as we travel along. How many puzzles can you unlock from that? How many questions? Do we have a purpose? Is there a reason why we read this book? Do we want to get to the party ourselves? Do we want to know the nature of ultimate reality? Do we want to know the immortal nature of our mind? The eternal nature? Do we want to find the principles within it to live a good life here and beyond? Do we want to nail it down so we can communicate it to other people clearly in a way that can benefit them? In doing so, will we get friends who are most devoted and become the best kind of lovers in our lives? Therefore, are we on a journey upwards? Anagogic. Upwards through the logos and analogy. If so, then could we be going up to a city? And is that journey what is well suited for hearing and for telling and hearing? Hey, if this theory we are carrying, that we are here to master philodianoia, the love of understanding, which involves hearing and telling, listening and talking, communicating, the dialectic, is our human journey the one most well suited for this? Yo, welcome Annie, welcome. We are reading the Symposium. We've just started, we're on page 2. And by the way, you're a designer. Uh-oh, is this going to be an ad? Is this going to be an ad? Yes, it's an ad. Okay. Surely then. No, thank you. Surely then. Okay. Ban this person. Oh, can I unban? Because I want people to be in the chat. I need to get... Oh, it's too late. In order to become affiliate with Twitch, I need to have an average of 3 people in my streams. And if they are bots or scammers, then whatever. And hey, if they stick around, maybe they can learn something. Surely then. Okay, so is this human journey that we're on, therefore an anagogic movement up to the city, whatever the city might represent? And could we say that this human journey up to the city, is this the best place where we could be learning the dialectic, hearing and telling? And if we're looking for people to share in the adventure...
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Then is this the sort of companion that we want on our journey? Someone who we can talk and listen to gain a love of understanding, to master the love of understanding through the logos of self. Endeavor in the chat. When the debate is lost, slander becomes the tool of the loser. Yes. Yes. Actually, we were talking about debate earlier. And how this journey that we are walking together as we learn the logos, learn how to understand the nature of love and beauty and what we're here for. It's not a debate. Because we're journeying together. Debate is in opposition. So you're right, yeah. So why would we slander our friends? Why would we slander our beloved? If we're walking together. That's the significance of understanding. Beliefs aren't true. Right opinions can turn out to be true, but beliefs themselves are not true. And as we learn philosophical midwifery on this channel, we realize that we are trapped in our repeating problems because we believe something that isn't true, even when we see it's not true. In fact, the Oracle says...
Imagine people...
Wait. Oracle says...
The problem is that you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
Yeah. We didn't reason ourselves into our beliefs. Now we're getting reason to get right opinions here. So even when we know it to be false, we still believe it, causing us to be trapped in our repeating cycles of problems. That's the human condition. That's the human problems. That's why we have Nazism still, and so on. Philosophical midwifery is how to actually understand and solve human problems. Therefore, debates are a waste of time. It's in opposition and it's based on beliefs, which are false. Dialectic, on the other hand, could that be what we are learning in the story? If Glaucon is saying, hey, I know you're up ahead, Apollodorus, and you seem to have gone through the process of going from right opinion to understanding, having verified it from Socrates himself. We have a question. Did Apollodorus reach the party? Nous, did he actually reach knowledge? By the way, I'm down here, let me walk with you. What is the name for walking together in a friendly, loving way, following the logos of love in this case, to bring us upward? Can we therefore say the promise of the introduction of the symposium is a promise about the dialectic? The friendly way of talking, the friendly way of talking and listening as we travel along upward. And is that dialectic how we close the gap between where we are and our lover or our beloved, our friend? If there's a friend further along the path, are we able to close the gap by talking together? Is that the promise? I don't know, but it's a question. Which means it's another quest we've picked up on our journey. What's the quest? The quest is, hey, what's the promise at the introduction? Or, what is this most just way of talking and listening as we travel upward together? Or, third quest, what's it mean to be a true friend? Lots of quests. Quest. But with a delay, so lots of quests. Here we go. We have fun on this channel with my soundboard. Don't we?
Don't be disgusting.
Sorry. Apollodorus says, surely then we went on ahead in this way. This is an account of a conversation being made to somebody else. To you? So are we in Glaucon's role, therefore? So he's telling a story about Glaucon, who is hearing about a party from someone else, from Apollodorus. But Apollodorus is also telling us the conversation. So are we making an upward journey with Apollodorus? Are we in Glaucon's role as we read? And if we are in Glaucon's role, then can we find the mythology, the analogy between Apollodorus, Glaucon, and Socrates to figure out what role what do those terms mean in terms of cognition? Image thinking, belief, right opinion, understanding, or knowledge, being at the party? What does Apollodorus represent? What does Socrates represent? And what does Glaucon represent? Because he's talking to us as he talked to Glaucon. Isn't that interesting? You're the main character in the book. You are. It's you. You are the one. Where am I living? I'm in Australia. Australia. How are you doing, Endeavor? Hey, like the what's that anime where the hero is Endeavor? By the way, this journey that we're talking about, one of the questions that we are carrying is, could this be the hero's journey? My Hero Academia has a hero named after you, Endeavor. Looks like this, actually. So, Apollodorus says to us, in a similar way he talked to Glaucon, we went on ahead in this way, and at the same time we made the Logos. Dun, dun, dun. We made the Logos.
What feminine freaks?
We made the Logos about these matters themselves. So that just as I began by saying, I am not unpracticed. Oh, okay. So he's saying, by the way, this walking together with a friend as we play the Logos game, that's the practice. So, what's that meme? Find yourself a girl who can do both. Just find yourself a girl who can tell and listen. Because that's the Logos. And that's the practice. The practice that we are most well suited to do as human beings. Therefore, if we are most well suited on this journey to move upward anagogically following the Logos through the dialectic with companions, how does that relate to the idea of justice that we read in Book 4 of the Republic recently? To do your intended function at all times. Now, we probably should read that section again because we've had a callback to justice already in the beginning. Twice. We have heard him say, hey, you are the most just. Where is it? Here we go. The most just messenger. The justice. So, dikaios, as we can see underneath. Now that's an easy one. If you want to remember the Greek word for justice, dikaios is easy to remember because it sounds dirty.
Freaks.
But also, he said, look, Glaucon, I'm better than you because I don't run all over the place doing lots of different things. I only do one thing. So both of those are references to the description of justice in the Republic. So let's take a pause to jump into that section and just have a little bit of a read of it, just so we've got that idea of justice in the back of our mind. Because one of the questions is, hey, if he is saying we are, number one, most well suited for this, and number two, if he's saying there's only one thing worth doing, we can have a question, we can give birth to a question, is this therefore the meaning of life? Objectively speaking, if there's one thing we should most be doing at all times, be practicing at all times, number one, and if the human condition is the best place for it, we could conclude, at least as a hypothesis, rationally and objectively speaking, that this would be the meaning of life. And once again, you can't go around saying, I know the meaning of life. Why? Because everybody else who has said, I know the meaning of life, have been liars or scammers or ignorant, or just been repeating the beliefs that they got from their parents, and they haven't done midwifery to remove their false beliefs, and they haven't come to a conclusion about the meaning of life through reading Socrates, through Right Opinion, Dianoia, and News. Therefore, saying, hey, I know the meaning of life isn't really going to work. Isn't going to help anyone. Because they either already have read it in the Symposium, and they already agree, they're already like Aristodemus and going around barefoot, whatever that means, or they don't already believe you and they're going to dismiss you. So, for that reason, let's jump in. What does that mean? Openly carry what? Do you mean guns? Are you being sarcastic? You have to say more, please, Endeavor. I know what you're saying. So, for that reason, let's take a pause and jump into that section about justice so we can see, hang on a second, if justice or the excellence of our soul, does that relate to what he is saying about being most well suited for a single activity? Walking along in a friendly way, talking and listening. As we communicate in this way the logos of love. We've brought up book 4 of the Balboa translation of the Republic, which is what we are suspecting might have an allusion to. We might have read an allusion to at the opening of the Symposium. Because the Republic is about self-justice. How to most excellently organize and harmonize our soul to become a philosopher king. Maybe like Apollodorus, or at least like Socrates. Or that other guy. Who's the guy with the bare feet? Who's bare feet guy? Aristodemus of Kukamathingan, Kudathinaeum, right. Because remember those commercials we always used to watch when we were kids? Hey, if you're going on a holiday at Kudathinaeum, you're going to be having the best time all day. They have a fantastic tourist department in Kudathinaeum. Anyway, that's Aristodemus, who's running around bare feet. Oh, this is fantastic. So we're in, the Balboa translation of Republic, book 4. I'm at 429D is the Stephanus number. That's how you can find it. Where he talks about the metaphor of how to die into your soul. What is courage? Says Glaucon. Oh, same Glaucon guy. Glaucon talks to Socrates. So maybe, what's Glaucon doing? Anyway, so I'm not sure whether the Republic is before or after. Maybe that can be one of our puzzles. Because why is Glaucon talking to Apollodorus and not Socrates about the party? Because here he is talking to Socrates in the Republic. Glaucon, 429C. I have not entirely comprehended what you say, so please say it over again. And we would say, oh, you know what? This saying and listening about the logos, especially from Socrates, that's the best thing you can do as we do our human walking along the path upward. So good for you, Glaucon. We give you a round of applause.
Don't be disgusting.
Don't be disgusting. Glaucon. And Socrates says, I most certainly say that courage, so one of the four virtues. What are the four virtues? Temperance, keeping your cool. Courage, what we're talking about now. Wisdom, a certain kind of knowledge that can guide you on seeing and defining whether or not you're on that side of the divided line or that side of the divided line. Whether or not you are thinking in terms of your beliefs or thinking in terms of nous. Kind of knowledge that can guide you. And justice. Those are the four. Let's write them on the board. Is that divided line? Again, if you've read it, this is a review. If you haven't, this is an opinion that you have to you can carry and verify for yourself, as that is the point. The virtues in the Republic. We have our snowman. Part of the soul that are inward, desiring. Then we have the middle part of our soul, the next biggest part of our snowman. Outward. Moving. Something that propels you to move outwardly in the world. And then the smallest part, top of the snowman, little small baby head. Our logos, reasoning. Reasoning, part of the soul. And then on top of all of that, injustice. Arranging yourself properly allows you to therefore go on and do justice. And what are the virtues? Temperance, or keeping your cool. Keeping cool. Courage. Hey, if you're going to be doing something outwardly, what do you want to do? What's going to motivate your actions? And wisdom. So wisdom is what you use to reason. Courage is what you carry as you move outwardly. And temperance realizes you have to desire the same thing you seek outwardly, the same thing that you reason with. So you can be unified as one and keeping your cool. Now, that's a little bit of a review as we jump into him talking about courage. Courage is a kind of preservative. What sort of preservative, says our friend Glaucon? The preservation of that opinion formed by the law in the course of our education. Now, the Republic is a story about a city, the Republic, to use as a metaphor for the soul. So when we talk about opinions formed by the law in our education, you could say, what would be the law? What would be the principles? Could it be the logos? And what's our education? Could it be what we were just reading in the Symposium, that to be not unpracticed, or our practice? So that's how you unpack the metaphor of the Republic. So the courage preserves the opinions, we've been talking a lot about opinions today, formed by the law in the course of our education about what is dreadful, what these things are and of what kind. Thus, we call courage itself a preservative, by being able to thoroughly preserve self through all conditions, in pains and in pleasures, in desires and fears, and never cast it off. So in your desires or fears, in your pains or pleasures, can you hold on to what the Logos says is what is most dreadful? If you wish, I intend to compare that to which it appears to be like. He's going to give us an analogy. Archon says, sure. Socrates says, do you not know then that whenever the dyers wish to dye their wool so as to be of a purple color, out of all of the colors, they first choose the single nature of the white, seeing that they prepare for its care with no few preparations, so that it is able to receive the brightest purple that is possible. And surely they dip it in this way. And thus the dye becomes ingrained in that which is dipped in this way, so that no amount of washing, neither without soap or with soap, is able to take away the brightness of selves. Surely you know what happens to any wool that is not cared for in this way, whether one is dyeing other colors or this purple, without the preparatory treatment. So, he's saying if you are going to preserve the Logos, you have to also purify in some way. From what? Yeah, I know people who try and ingrain within their soul the teachings of the Logos without a preparation. Is there an activity that we've been talking about that we've been doing as part of the game of Philodianoia that purifies? That purifies what's false, so we can better ingrain within not our clothes, the color purple, but ingrain within our soul the truth about the Logos. As we walk this human journey with our friends and companions, discussing the Logos through the dialectic about the nature of beauty and love. As Glaucon and Apollodorus are walking. By the way, in this activity of removing what's false in the game of Philodianoia, do we recognize that the most terrible condition of the soul is a kind of belief that prevents you from traversing this line into the intelligible, into being, into, has also put the other words, truth and clarity? Dianoia and nous, intelligible, the realm of being, where we find truth and apprehend with clarity. These are the terms from the divided line. Is there something that keeps us bound to opinion? Stuck in the physical world of becoming, keeping us trapped in ignorance, living in a barbaric fog of obscurity. Barbaric fog is the expression from the Republic. Ignorance. Obscurity. I don't know if I'm spelling that right, but who cares? So, what is the name that we get from philosophical midwifery here, which is the use of the dialectic and dianoia to help people traverse this evolutionary development from barbarians and zombies, human beings who are stuck blindly, fervently, violently loyal to ignorant, false beliefs that harms themselves, our fellow man, and our planet. Like, just watched the Superman movie recently. Lex Luthor and that guy who's an obvious mythological representation of Netanyahu. They harm themselves, they harm their fellow man, they harm the world, and they are violently loyal to doing that harm, preventing us from living in a harmonized world with harmonized souls, harmonized with our planet. The nature of that belief is the pathologos belief. That's what we help people address. Again, we don't kill the bad guys like Hawk Girl in the movie. Spoiler. We are more like Superman in that we hey, if they've already done the harmful things, why not make use of that to put them in a condition where they're most encouraged and most supported in reflecting on what were the underlying causes of them acting in that harmful way, so that the people they have murdered or starved to death in the pursuit of capitalism or inequality or whatever was behind the motivating pathologos belief, so that their sacrifices are not in vain. Hey, this is the consequence of your actions. Let's you find out what was the pathologos belief, and as a society, let's reflect on the conditions that allowed them to get that pathologos belief, so that we don't repeat the same fucking problems over and over and over and over and over and over and over until we die as a species and as a planet. More like Superman. Okay? So considering we are learning about that, can we come to a conclusion about what is most dreadful to have within our soul? The cause of our most dreadful barbaric zombie actions, caveman thinking, keeping us on this side of the divided line, opinions from the world of becoming, the physical world, keeping us in ignorance and obscurity, preventing our evolutionary movement from barbarian savages into actual intelligent beings, able to perceive the intelligible realm, the realm of being, truth with clarity. What is the name of that cause of what is most dreadful within the soul? The pathologos. Therefore, do we see midwifery as a kind of purification process? In which case we can we have some terms to fill in this puzzle in the Republic. So taking all of that reflection with us, can we reread this section again? What is courage? The virtue of courage? Reminder, the four virtues. Temperance, courage, wisdom, and above it all, justice, the highest excellence of herself. That courage one, it's a preservation of the opinions formed by the law in the course of our education about what is dreadful and what kinds of things, what class of belief is most dreadful to carry in the soul. Thus, it is a preservative, being able to thoroughly preserve self through all conditions, in pains, in pleasures, in desires and fears, and never cast it off. Never cast off what we've been reading and practicing in this channel by doing philosophical midwifery and reading that book. Never cast it off. That's courage. So, and that's like when you dye some wool, you first have to bleach the wool so it's a singular nature of the white, so that you can receive the brightest purple. Certainly then, says Socrates, through such an analogy, understand that as far as we are able, we are also aiming to such a result. Okay, let's move ahead. Let's keep going, actually. So, we are selecting the best parts of our soul, the soldiers, and we are educating them through music and physical training. Again, metaphors. Neither must you imagine that we are contriving anything else than that they should be persuaded by us in the most beautiful way, so as to be able to take in the laws as if they were a die, in order that their opinion, right opinion about selves being dreadful and other things, might be ingrained both by means of their natural disposition and maintaining their nurture. Find the best part of our soul, take in these right opinions, ingrain them, so you'll never wash them away. However dreadful the wearing away effects may be, whether it's pleasure, which is more dreadful. By the way, what's the thing that he says is most capable of wearing away what you have been learning and practicing and trying to ingrain within your soul? Pleasure. Pleasure is more dangerous than pain. Isn't that interesting? Wonder why. Pleasure is more dreadful in affecting than all and wearing us away than wearing away what the logos that we are preserving through courage, than all soaps mixed with abrasors, or pain or fear or desire or other detergents. Pleasure is most powerful. Wonder why. Certainly then. By the way, ever seen anybody knowing they're acting out their pathologos and they have that Joker smile creep across their face? I've always wondered about that. I'll tell my personal story. Recently, I was playing music. No, I won't tell that story. No, fuck it. And there was a guy who, a group of people who beat me up. And when they could see that they were getting away with it, they were smiling in an interesting way. And when I told the flag down the police and he chose to ignore me, he was smiling in the exact same way when he was dismissing me having been assaulted just for the crime of playing music for a group of people who asked. Oh, and not giving my guitar up to him because he decided that he was better at playing guitar, so I should give him my guitar. And I said, no, I never do that. It's not personal, it's just a principle. I never give up my guitar. And yeah, decided that that was worth beating me up. And then all of the people, yeah, he was a middle-aged Maori guy. And there were some other people who were nearby who decided not to help, which was disappointing. And the policeman also, when I said, hey, that guy just there, you can grab him, just assaulted me in a bunch of different ways. Same smile on his face. Same smile as the guy who realized he was getting away with imitating his father. His violent, abusive father. Maybe getting away with it because, just like in his family clan, the people around stood by and let it happen. That fucking disgusting human behavior towards human beings is called the pathologos. The most dreadful thing in the soul. Why is pleasure stronger in wiping away justice and fairness and logos and truth, and treating your fellow man with justice and care and rationality? It's completely irrational to decide as a stranger. I want to play the guitar. I'm better than you. If you don't give it to me, you're arrogant. And I don't like that you're leaving. By the way, aren't police supposed to do that job? Why was it more important for him to have a good old laugh at someone who had just been beaten up than to actually try and help? Why is pleasure more dreadful in stripping away the logos about what is good? You heard the expression, the cruelty is the point, when talking about fascists and right-wingers and capitalists and billionaires. Hey, they're billionaires. They could just solve starvation of children. Why does Trump and Musk and Bezos and Zuckerberg and all those people want to remove school lunches for children? Want to remove healthcare for everybody? Want to genocide the people in Palestine? Why is it that the cruelty seems to be what they want to spend their money on? How does that tie in with what Socrates is saying? That the thing that wears away the rationality, what the laws, what the logos is supposed to teach our soul about what's just. Why is pleasure the most strongest abrasive? More than pain? How important is that for our soul to realize? How important is that for our species to realize? So, and therefore, how important is courage as a preservative to recognize what is most dreadful in the soul, the pathologos, and the associated pleasure, sadistic pleasure of playing out that sadistic idea of knowingness, the pathologos? Why is the courage, the purification of our pathologos, why is that important? So that anything that we learn in life can be washed away in an instant in a situation like that. Thus the importance of courage. Glaucon says, "You appear to me to have led me to believe that any right opinion concerning these selves that arises without an education is beastly and befitting a slave. Doesn't matter what we teach Zuckerberg and old mate on the street and the police and the billionaires and the politicians. It means fuck all. Without, says Glaucon, an education of philosophical midwifery and how to remove the pathologos. Any sort of education is beastly. You're going to make Zuckerberg and Bezos and Musk and Trump and Netanyahu and Putin more beastly, more able to play out with their wealth and power their pathologos. And therefore, any education is beastly and befitting a slave to the zombie virus called the pathologos. And not at all lawful. And is not virtuous and is not courage. And Socrates says, bang on, son. Certainly then, we have accepted this to be courage. So now let's go on to justice, says Socrates. Let's unfold justice, Dick Chaos. Oh, first of all, let's look at sound-mindedness, keeping your cool. It resembles a kind of symphony and harmony. Sound-mindedness, or sophrosune, keeping your cool, is a certain arrangement and a certain mastery and self-control of our pleasures and desires. so that we're not a slave to them. We are not, so they are not superior to us. Hey, becoming aware of your pathologos and practicing the logos so that you can control them and they don't control you, like sadistic cop, like sadistic marry guy, moldy guy, fake guitarist, like sadistic bystanders seem to enjoy the conflict than trying to help. That seems like a shit way of being a human being. That's not sophrosyne. So, certain arrangement and self-control and mastery so that they are not superior of you, controlling you, as we say. Isn't the expression superior of self ridiculous? How can you be superior or inferior to yourself? Be both subject and a master if it's the same self spoken. This expression brings to light the logos that there exists in the same person. In regards to the soul, there is a part that is better and a part that is inferior. The better part has to in some way be master of the inferior. This disposition is what is meant by being superior of yourself or a master of yourself. Be a master of yourself. Be in control. We would say today, be in control of yourself. Well, what does that mean? There has to be two selves. You in control of yourself. What does that mean? If we have a defective upbringing without philosophical midwifery, or any defective association associated with rulers or parental figures that embody that way of being, when the better part is smaller, it falls under the mastery of the many, mastery of the masses, mastery of the inferior. Then this part, by way of reproach, both expresses blame and denotes the person being affected by the inferior to themselves and lacking discipline. Yeah, it's easy to make friends who share your ignorance. Hey, if you're a violent, genocidal Jew, you might be easier for you to hang out with other people who share that same Zionistic belief. If you are a tyrant, a billionaire, you probably want to have lunch with other billionaires and oligarchs. If you are a Christian, you probably would like to hang around with people who have that same belief, that you are the chosen people and Armageddon is worth pursuing because that's when Jesus will come back. Or a Zionist, or no, we've already done Zionism, Protestantism, and any particular false belief, anything that is based on belief. Why? Because beliefs are not true, except of course for that rare class of right opinion. And therefore, without understanding, specifically without understanding philosophical midwifery is the cause of our savagery and harm. Now, if you don't like what you just heard, I don't mean your family tradition. I don't mean your cultural tradition, that milieu that you grew up in, and I don't mean your beloved beliefs. I mean the 8 billion other ones that are different from yours. Surely you can see all of them are insane, unless of course you have integrity and you realize that being blindly loyal to your own particular beliefs is contradictory as a principle. It's easy to point at others, but to go through the process of philosophical midwifery is needed to find what has been died into your soul. Otherwise, yeah, people go to war for their religion, people go to war for their political leaders, people go to war for their family beliefs, do genocide, promote wealth inequality because we are better, we have to be billionaires. Hey, all wealth is relative. You can't have an equal society, a fair, harmonious society, and there be rich. Rich doesn't mean having lots. It means having more than others. We've been lied to when we say, hey, we should all be rich. Lift yourself up from your bootstraps and be rich. No. The idea of richness means you have to have poor people. If everyone had $1 million, you wouldn't be rich. We could all be living well and abundant. But then who could you inflict your pathologo suffering upon as a way of playing out your zombie virus sickness because you lack courage? We have to stop our conversation about GDP getting more rich, because what's happening? We are getting more savage and cruel. And only a dozen people seem to be happy, and they're not even happy. They have to enact further and further cruelty to get a bigger and bigger buzz. It's a sickness. The idea of wealth inequality or billionaires or rich, the idea of rich marketed as a positive thing is a sickness. Equality has to be our conversation. Equality has to be the conversation. Otherwise, in the city, we will be a slave to the many, a slave to the worst part of ourselves. Ruled by the worst. So, we can understand that anybody interested in right-wing or fascism or billionaires or capitalism or any of that shit that seeks to harm other people lacks courage, lacks discipline, is unjust, because they lack philosophical midwifery, which is an essential nature of courage, because it's that which holds on to what is most devastating within the soul, the pathologos, despite, hey, but what if you are a billionaire? So currently I'm in Australia and it's becoming almost impossible to live because rent is increasing ridiculously, food is increasing ridiculously, no one has any money, society is falling apart, there are so many people who are homeless. It's disgusting. We don't have to because we're a rich country in resources. But these people buy the politicians. They sell their soul to billionaires. The politicians who don't need the logos to rule. They are not this kind of republic. So we are being ruled by the worst in our species because politicians and kings and politicians or clergy, they don't need understanding. They don't need an art. They don't need to show an understanding and knowledge of an art. And they don't need to benefit their subjects. Because religion is belief and politics currently is belief as well. It's an absurdity. We are ruled by the worst side of the divided line. We're not ruled by understanding. Hey, a doctor has to understand medicine. A doctor has to have an ideal of the body, and a doctor always has to benefit the subject, otherwise they go to prison for malpractice. Why do we not demand that of our clergy and kings? Why are they ruled by the worst part of the soul, beliefs, causing barbarianism, savagery, the zombie virus? So, courage and temperance seem to be the same thing. To recognize that the worst is to be ruled by the pathologos, and the best is to do philosophical midwifery, number one, practice dianoia and understanding, the dialectic, the logos, so that you can gain an experience of nous. In other words, temperance and courage are both this and this. Philodianoia, applied to philosophy, the color purple, to be ruled by the best part of yourself, to be ruled by the understanding of the true, the dialectic on the true, and to recognize what is most terrible within the soul, and the power of the sadistic pleasure of pathologos, of playing out the same injustice to other people, finally playing daddy's chair, doing the same bullshit that was done to you. That's the most dangerous thing. Interesting, is it not? find a great many in various desires and pleasures and pains, most especially among children and women and servants, and in the most numerous and most deficient part of those who are called free. But the simple and moderate desires that are led by nous, that's the fourth category, led by intellect itself, and according to the logos of right opinion. There we go. That's the best state of mind and the best education. So what? So we're seeing the virtues isn't just understanding. Yes, it's to be led by nous, the intelligible, being, truth, clarity. But hey, if you are practicing the virtues, if it's a discipline, then you don't have understanding yet. You're not at the party yet. You are using this through right opinion. You haven't freed yourself from your pathologos yet. You're a human being here to learn. But carrying the right opinions from midwifery, the right opinions about the pathologos belief ruling the soul, keeping you in savagery, that's the virtues of courage and temperance. The right opinions about what's false and the right opinions about this. Isn't that interesting? The virtues aren't about understanding. They're not about actually being at the party and having nous. It's to practice the right opinions until you're free of your pathologos. It's to practice the right opinions until you master the dialectic, dianoia, which allows you to get to the party and maybe go beyond, to know the self that was behind it all. Isn't that interesting? The virtues are about right opinions. Be led by nous according to the logos. Oh, so we've got some dianoia in there. That's the logos of right opinion. So that the desires of the many are not under the rule of the most defective part, pathologos belief, while the desires of those that are few are under the mastership of that right opinion, holding on to how to be simple, how to simply seek philosophy at all times and midwifery, and to be led by the more elegant, fitting, and suitable and reasonable, to be led by the just part of your soul, the beautiful part of your soul, to be led by beauty. Oh, now we've tied it into the Symposium. Why? Well, we've just been reading that Glaucon says, hey, you will be a terrible person if you are seeking lots of different things. You are not unified, sound-mindedness on one activity. To be led by the beauty of nous through dianoia, even extending to right opinions about what's most devastating within the soul and the state, the pathologos, and how pleasure plays the worst kind of role in the pathologos, and to follow the right opinions through the logos from nous, led by the most beautiful aspect of reality. Therefore, our question about what is the logos of beauty fits that single activity humans are most suited for, wondering about, talking and listening about on our journey upwards. So, the logos of beauty will lead us that way, to right opinions, logos and dianoia, to nous. We can also ask, therefore, how does the distortion of beauty play a role in giving us our pathologos, giving us the worst kind of defect in the soul? That's a question we can carry as we wonder, because we're also going to be reading the midwifery book as we go, because that's the game. We'll be doing all of it. It's a single activity, philodianoia, but it involves reading the Symposium, doing midwifery, figuring out dream analysis, and sharing it over coffee with our friends, and in our creations, and in our work every day. Because it's a single activity, right? That humans are most suited for, right? As we move upwards, right? Upwards being anagogic, right? Anagogic means upwards through the logos, right? Upwards through the logos means analogy, right? Another logos, upward moving. Has Socrates been using an analogy by talking about the city-state to talk about the soul? Is it because he did that, or Plato did that, or Socrates did that, Plato wrote it down, that allows us to figure it out for ourselves, without which our whole species would be screwed? Okay, let's move on. Wisdom, the part of the city that rules. But we are interested in justice. Because that's what has been referred to in the beginning of the Symposium. Right, took a break to top up my coffee. By the way, speaking of mythology, the issue why the problem with, for those who've seen the latest Superman movie, the way of dealing with problems that Hawkgirl had compared to Superman, you can completely understand why Hawkgirl's strategy is better than Superman's in the movie, because Superman doesn't offer an alternative. The evil character is just, if nothing's going to happen to him, he's going to keep doing harm. If there's no philosophical midwifery, philosophy, dream analysis, and mythology, there's no method of midwifery to reflect on the cause of his problems, so we can address it as a society, so he will never have power. We will no longer give guns to the babies. And for himself to reflect on his own individual belief to benefit his soul. In other words, if Superman doesn't develop this, then Hawkgirl's solution will, let's just kill the cause of the problem. If there's a guy doing genocide, let's just end him. Seems to make most sense within the context of the movie. Superman got close to it, but like all of the mythology in our culture, all of our mythology lacks, because mythology is the fourth. It's the conclusion part of the dialectic. If the dialectic is, hey, talk about what are we here to do as human beings to find the truth itself, self to itself, then how do we use our master to learn the dialectic? That's what we learn from Socrates. That's why we're reading the Symposium and the Republic. To get the meaning of life, to get the dianoia, to get the dialectic itself, then how do we best use it, self to others? The most important use of it is midwifery. That's the courage preservative. That's the purifying ourselves from what's most devastating and brutal. That's the cause of the genocides and the inequality and the suffering and the violence. It's our pathologos. Therefore, the highest functioning of philosophy is midwifery. You could even say, well, it's the highest functioning of midwifery because it frees you, and this functioning of philosophy to seek the truth is an automatic state of being that happens when we're free of our problems. So you could say, yeah, midwifery is the highest self to others or functioning. Oops. Philosophy is the dialectic itself, how it functions, self to others. Then, hey, others to others. The other guide we get in all of the divisions, both, is our dreams. As a result of going through all three of them, then you can make good superhero movies. Otherwise, you have Superman saying, oh, I'm just going to beat you up whenever there's a problem and not address the cause of the problem. We can't wait for Superman. Some benevolent tyrant who's powerful. And he's not a tyrant, but like a supernatural being like that. So therefore, the greatest mythology that we have so far is Naruto. Naruto is, as far as I'm aware, well, maybe Deku from My Hero Academia is getting close. But Naruto had his greatest jutsu, his greatest power was the Talk no Jutsu. Talk no Jutsu. His ability to use the dialectic to treat his enemy as a friend in conversation to get to the root of their problem. The family and society they grew up in, because Naruto himself grew up in a society that hated him and without parental figures who cared for him. So he could relate to each of the enemies had the same conditions and family teachers. So he demonstrated the Talk no Jutsu, or the dialectic, to actually help people. Now, the time of the recording, you can see that the writers of Deku and My Hero Academia is reaching for that. The question is, do they pick up this, Philadelphia? Therefore, we need people for themselves to reach the truth, for themselves and their relationships to be free of their injustice, for themselves to develop that relationship with their own dream master and guru. We need these people to be creating the stories. We don't have to continue being barbarians. We don't have to live in a terrible world where we hurt each other all the time. It's just this. Just this. And it's fun. The best game in town. And it makes the best movies in town. I guarantee you. If you use this as your model for your superhero movie, you will make bank. I guarantee you. We're yearning for it. People loved when people started to tell the truth in that Superman movie. We need to tell the truth. We love the truth. We seek the truth. So, back to, let's first see if we can get insight into justice before we jump back into the symposium. Here then, if I say anything to the point that for that which we laid down from the beginning, when we established the city concerning what must be done throughout all conditions, this, or a species of this, is justice. Now, our author uses fairness sometimes, but it's justice. You can read it there in the Greek. Dikaios. See, look. That funny D is a D, that I is an I, that K is a K, that A is an A, that I is an I, that O is an O, and that pregnant S looking thing is an S. Dikaios. Therefore, without a doubt, we established it and spoke of it often, if you remember, that each individual, and the city as well, must apply themselves to one pursuit, devotion. What have we heard from not Apollodorus, but the other guy, Aristodemus. He is the most devout. Is it Aristodemus? You find out what his name was. The most devoted follower of... Yes, Aristodemus. Aristodemus is the most devoted to one person, Socrates. Mythology, see? It's not actually about one person being devoted to Socrates. It's about our self, our soul being devoted to one activity, the logos. One pursuit or devotion of those relating to the city or to which the nature of self is most, here we go, most naturally adapted and fit. So those are the two things we've already covered in the opening of the symposium. A single devotion, a single activity that we are most adapted to or most naturally fitted to on this journey as we move upwards. Justice. There is a single function humans are most adapted to. Philodianoia. A single practice that we can be devoted to. We can be in love with. Surely then, do the affairs of self do not take on many pursuits? That's justice. So Apollodorus is already calling out Glaucon for being unjust. Having many pursuits, doing everything except for one single activity, philosophy. Not just. Whereas, if he's saying, hey, Apollodorus, you are the most just in giving the logos, does that mean that Apollodorus is devoted to Socrates or devoted to one thing? That's the mythology, of course. Socrates. Do not so the affairs and self. Pay attention to the surely that indeed to do the affairs of self. Of the self. Self beauty. Self justice. And do not take on many pursuits is justice. We have heard this from many others and spoken of it ourselves. We have indeed spoken of it many times, says Glaucon. Interesting. Certainly then, this, O friend. Now this is friend, which is also lover. Lover, friend. Because that's PH, that O with a circle in is PH. That I is an I. That L with a walking stick is an L. Philos, Sophia. Philo. That's Philly. So friend and lover can be together in this sense. In this activity. This, O friend, has ventured coming into existence in a certain way to be justice. The performance of the affairs of self. Single affair of self. Do you know from whence I draw my standard? No, hell. It appears to me to be that which still remains those aspects. Sound-mindedness, keeping your cool. Harmonized in one activity. Courage, to hold on to the fact that pathologos is the worst and the pleasure of the pathologos is the most dangerous. Abrasive, to wash away what we've been learning in philosophy. And presence of mind. Okay, that's phronesis. That's the mysterious fifth virtue that he doesn't get into. This is one of the clues. What's the virtue beyond those four? What's the mysterious fifth that we always find when we have four of something? Like the four categories of the dialectic, what's the mysterious fifth? The four causes, what's the mysterious fifth? The four positive hypothesis, what's the fifth? Anyway, just keep that one in mind. We've already considered that that which provides the power to all of these aspects so as to be able to come into existence in the city. And while we've already considered in the city that which provides the power to all of these aspects so as to be able to come into existence in the city or soul. And while they indeed exist in her to provide their preservation, so long as it may be present in her. And we surely said that justice would be that which would be left if we found the other three. Let's skip down to where he gives... Here we go. Here's a simple definition. This is enough for us to go back into the symposium with. Justice should also be acknowledged to be the habit and practice of doing self's own proper work. Okay. So that's what we were looking for. We've mentioned in the opening introduction to the symposium, we've mentioned the word justice. We've mentioned what humans are most adapted for. We've mentioned doing one work, not many. We've mentioned having a clear state of mind that can most justly communicate the logos. We've talked about being devoted to that single activity. We even have a mythology of someone most devoted to Socrates, Aristodemus, barefooted midget. He's not a midget, he's just a short person. I don't know why I said that. We have been wondering about, and we've seen it here again with the virtues, the role of right opinion at the beginning, different from belief or pathologos belief. That is a practice. Several times, Apollodorus has said, I am not unpracticed. Wants justice, doing the practice. Thumbs up. Of self's proper function. So what are the virtues? A kind of practicing that ingrains it into your soul, so long as you're also doing midwifery, based on right opinion through the logos from nous, until of course we develop our own dianoia. The virtues are kind of discipline we have to develop until it becomes obvious and clear. So then we either say, well, we don't need the virtues anymore, or the virtues level up. Different kind of virtue that isn't based on right opinion, practice, and discipline, but it's now clear and obvious. And if it's clear and obvious, is that the kind of justice that Glaucon is recognizing in Apollodorus? Seeing as he's the most just and able to give a most clear account of the logos representing Socrates. See how many puzzles are baked into just the opening 2 pages of the symposium. And see how it ties into what we've been learning in the Republic. Fascinating, fascinating stuff. Already mind blowing many times, and we are just in the first episode of the series. So, maybe we'll call it there for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Feel free to follow on Twitch and like and subscribe on YouTube so you can follow along and ask questions and puzzle along with me and my stuffy. I live stream in lifetime, in real time. If you want to get a notification when we go live, you can join the Discord. If you want to read the text yourself, there should be a link below. If you want to donate to the channel, there's an opportunity to do there as well. Thank you one more time for joining me in, well, Philos. True friends and lovers doing what we are most suited to do as human beings as we move upwards towards our highest purpose, our intended function? Would we call that the meaning of life? If you do, be careful in how you communicate that to others. But make sure you do. I will pay good money to see that film. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.